The Supreme Court on Tuesday declined to grant legal recognition to same-sex marriages, holding that it is only for Parliament and state legislatures to create such institutions and grant them legal validation. The Constitution bench of 5 judges comprising Chief Justice of India Dhananjaya Y. Chandrajut and Justices Sanjay Kisan Kaul as Ravindra Bhatt, Hima Kohli and P.S. Narasimha were unanimous that it is beyond the remit of courts to issue a positive direction to the legislator to accord legal recognition to same-sex marriages. The judges were also unanimous in giving a go-ahead to a high-powered committee proposed by the centre in May to examine the concerns of same-sex couples and moot certain corrective measures. The judgment, separately authored by the CJI and Justices Kaul, Bhatt and Narasimha, also refused to annul or tweak the provisions of the Special Marriage Act to include non-heterosexual couples within its fold, even as they declared that queer couples have a right to cohabit without any threat of violence, coercion or interference. The judges, however, were a divided lot in deciding how far the court could go, with the majority of 3 judges rejecting the view that there can be a right to form civil unions and that the state would be under obligation to ensure a bouquet of benefits for the non-heterosexual couples as permissible under the law.
And throughout the word queer has been used as inclusive of not just same-sex couples but also trans couples, and this is very important because it includes non-binary people. And there are various aspects of protection under the criminal law that have been very specifically elucidated and take the law forward. There were judgments that spoke of the obligation of the state to look at civil union, to examine the way in which the relationships of queer couples must be respected and recognized in terms of the various accoutrements to a long and solid relationship. The Chief Justice and Justice Kaul also spoke of the right of queer couples to adopt. And this is something that was extremely important because they looked at the CARA guidelines and they found that a loving home is something that a queer couple can provide as much as any other couple, and they recognized that explicitly. Unfortunately, Justice Bhatt did not agree with that and felt that this is something that should be examined more closely. There were some opportunities today, I believe, that have been pushed off to the legislatures, and the central government has made their stand clear with regard to marriage. We hope that their committee will ensure that civil unions are recognized and that the concomitants of marriage are then brought in to law, at least with regard to civil unions. But I will also say that the Congress and other governments in power in the states have many opportunities to bring into law the recognition of rights and the recognition, for example, of a partner's right to make medical decisions, because they can legislate on health, they can look at employment non-discrimination, they can look at, there's a lot that can be done. And if it is the legislature's responsibility, when the opposition parties speak, those that are in power in the state governments, let us not hear mere condemnation or any detraction from anyone else's position. Let us see affirmative work to protect the rights of all citizens. If they say that they stand with all citizens, let them put their money where their mouth is, and let them put their democratic mandate where their mouth is, and protect the rights of all citizens in legislation, in office orders, in notifications, everywhere that queer rights deserve to be protected. If there's anything that we heard today that was unanimous, it was that queer citizens have rights, that marriage is not something that they are going to give us today, but that the rights of queer citizens must be protected, and the state governments can protect them today.
जी, majority judgment 3 judges की है. उन्होंने petitions को dismiss किया है, लेकिन इसे dismissal के तौर पे नहीं लेना चाहिए, because उन्होंने कई positive statements दी हैं rights के बारे में. उनकी ruling जो थी, it turned on finding that the right to marry is not a fundamental right per se under the constitution. People may agree, people may disagree on what the impact of that statement is. Obviously गौर से और डिटेल में सारी जजमेंट्स पढ़नी पड़ेंगी उनके इम्पोर्टेंस के लिए, बट इन माय ओपिनियन इशू को फोर में लाने के लिए और जिस तरह से आर्ग्यूमेंट्स गई हैं इतने एलिवेटेड लेवल पे ऑन जेंडर, सेक्सुअल ओरिएंटेशंस, इन दोनों के अंतर पे बहुत विचार किया है हर जज ने. और हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लिए ग्रेटफुल ही हो सकते हैं, बिकॉज अपना कीमती समय जजेस ने रखा सामने और जैसे भी डिसीजन आया उससे हमें कुछ ना कुछ जरूर आगे मिलेगा. बट ये सही है कि फाइट इज ऑन. I think, adoption was not front and center as an issue. It was an issue. The issue was of marriage equality. So I think perhaps they felt that detailed arguments had to be led, detailed considerations had to be gone into regarding the psyche of a child, जो कि adoption में किसी घर में घुसता है और उनको किस तरह की stability चाहिए होती है. तो I think that the majority decision उस पे based है. मैं उससे बिल्कुल agree नहीं करती हूँ, because single parents also have the right to marry.
The CJI and Justice Scott wrote in favor of recognizing a right to form a civil union, but Justices Bhatt, Goli and Narasimha emphasized that there is no unqualified right to marriage under the Constitution, and thus it cannot be recognized as a fundamental right. When the right to marry is not a fundamental right but just a statutory right, the majority held that there cannot be a right to civil union that can be legally enforceable. By the same majority, the court also held that non-heterosexual couples cannot be granted the right to jointly adopt a child. Following a marathon hearing that lasted 10 days of intense arguments from both sides in March and April, the 5-judge bench on May 11 reserved its verdict in a batch of over 20 petitions that implored the judiciary to step in, owing to the alleged failure of the executive to take the lead and grant the same-sex couples equality with heterosexual couples in matters of marriage and incidents of a marriage, including adoption, succession, inheritance, divorce, among others.